Thanks for joining us for today's webinar. This is the start of our 6th webinar series for the NGSS-ESS Working Group. Today's webinar is entitled Remote and Hybrid Earth and Space Science Teaching and Learning Resources. This is brought to you by the NGSS-ESS Working Group. I'm Aida Awad. I am past president of NAGT, joined by Ed Roback from AGI, Missy Holzer from NESTA, and Mitch Awalt behind the screen there at CERC running the tech for us today. So thank you very much for joining us. Today we have 11 presenters. We're going to be going through this kind of rapid fire. They have 2 slides each, and they will have 4 minutes to present. There will be a bell sound with a 30-second warning, and if you hear 2 bells, that's not good. That means you're being cut off. So the 11 presenters are up there on the screen. There will be some time for discussion, question, and answer following the presentations. Please do drop questions and thoughts and ideas and comments into the chat box throughout the course of the webinar. Missy Holzer will be managing all of those for us, and will bring those to us at the end of the presentations. And then at the end, you'll find the link to the post-webinar survey, which we would very much like for you to fill out. And you'll need to fill out if you'd like to get the certificate of completion. This webinar is part 1 of this mini-series. We will have part 2 of this mini-series, where we'll bring you another 10 to 12 resources. That will be on October 15th at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Registration for that will come out next week, so please keep an eye on your inbox for that. And as I mentioned previously, our entire 5 series of webinars is now available on the AGI YouTube channel, and today's webinar will also be going up there very shortly. Again, please feel free to type any thoughts, ideas, questions, or comments into the chat box as we go through today's presentation. And without further ado, we will go ahead and get started. So, Jessica, you are up first.
No pressure. Gonna set the stage here. All right. Hello, everyone. I am Jessica Swan. I am actually from Arizona State University. I work for the Center for Education Through Exploration, and I'm here to talk with you today about the Infiniscope project. Infiniscope is a NASA-funded project. We just received news that we have been renewed for an additional 5 years, so that's incredibly exciting. What we do is we design digital learning experiences. Majority of what we build are for middle school and for high school students. Everything we build is fully aligned to NGSS. We provide you lesson plans that are built in with 5E in mind. We provide you timelines, we provide teacher tips, we provide misconception alerts, time management tips. But really the star of the show are these digital products. What we do is we try to identify student misconceptions and knowledge gaps, and we can utilize an intelligent tutoring system to push our students down alternative pathways. So we can actually provide an individualized experience for all of our students. Different types of lessons that you will find. Currently we have things related to moon phases and eclipses. You can search for things about extinctions, mass extinctions called Dino Doom. We do things with geologic time. We have Kepler's third law. Members of our network, everything that we offer is totally free, and members of our network not only gain access to all of these digital resources that you can fold directly into your learning management system or push directly out to your students, but we also provide visualization. So these are straight simulations that you can utilize without a lesson wrapped around them. We also provide contributed content that is created by our educator community, and we have a community of practice. So it's a large ball of wax, all offered to you for free. And sometimes a video does a much better job than words. So Aida, if you can click next, and we'll go ahead and start a video just to showcase one particular learning experience, Phases of the Moon. And I'll let it do its job. nailed the timing with 6 seconds. Connect with me in chat. I'll drop my email and I'll also drop the Infiniscope links into chat for you. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much, Jessica. Jeff Campfire, you are up next. Take it away, Jeff.
Hi, I'm Jeff Campfire of the American Geosciences Institute, and I'll be talking about some of the exciting educational resources available through the Earth Science Week program. Activities such as manufacturing, transportation, food production, energy generation, and product recycling shape our world. That's why Earth Science Week is focusing this year on the theme of Earth materials in our lives on October 11th through 17th. First thing I want to tell you about is the Earth Science Week 2020 Toolkit. This is a kit of materials that is free and available for the cost of shipping and handling. This year's toolkit includes dozens of items because we continually hear from teachers that what they want most are activities. The materials feature lots of activities that teachers can guide students through. Most of the activities are geared to the grade levels where most public school students study earth science, roughly grades 5 through 10, but the materials really are relevant from kindergarten through higher ed. The Earth Science Week poster, for example, one of the items in there is an attractive wall poster that you can hang up in the classroom if you can. But beyond that, there's an activity on the back that guides students through research and discussion of the many ways that Earth materials shown on the poster are detected, collected, processed, turned into products, transported, distributed, used, and disposed of or recycled. Another item in the kit is the Earth Science Activity Calendar. It's a wall hang that features a variety of educational activities, one each month, throughout the academic year and beyond. The calendar provides a great way to explore Earth materials in our lives and additional Earth science topics all year long. I just want to emphasize that the Earth Science Week Toolkit contains over 30 items. There's a U.S. Geological Survey fact sheet or two. They cover the raw materials found in cell phones and Navy SEAL gear. There are National Science Foundation worksheets on the science of rocks and the water cycle. There's an Earth Materials board game that NASA and USGS created, as well as a poster to help you celebrate Geologic Map Day, the Friday of Earth Science Week, by exploring how Earth materials have given us many of our place names, such as cities and other places throughout America. And there's lots more, of course. Perhaps even more useful to educators, especially in this time of pandemic though, is the Earth Science Week website, which offers resources and links amassed over the more than 20-year history of the program. For example, the Earth Science Week online toolkit provides a curated selection of materials from Earth Science Week toolkits past and present. The online toolkit offers many activities, posters, and calendars. The site allows users significantly to filter activities by Earth Science Week theme, disciplinary, core idea, even language. One of the great ways to explore the theme of Earth materials in our lives this year is the launch of Minerals Day on October 12th. AGI and the Mineralogical Society of America are teaming up to develop materials, organize research, and work with geoscience partners to promote public awareness and appreciation of mining, minerals, and mineralogy, including the many exciting uses, technologies, and careers associated with minerals. And science teachers and students are being invited to check out the Earth Materials Frontiers webinar series that AGI will present during Earth Science Week. Engaging presentations by experts and scholars will cover topics such as raw materials and new technologies, social responsibility, economic ramifications. For example, one speaker will provide a video with animations along with a talk on the emerging technology of mining in space. We'll post more details as we get to Earth Science Week. And that's just a little bit of what you'll find in Earth Science Week. Feel free to check out the website for more. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Jeff. Ryan Hollister, you are up next. Ryan, take it away.
Hi, so I'm Ryan Hollister. I'm a science coach at Turlock Unified School District in Central California, and I'd like to share something I made as part of the Science Friday Educator Collaborative the first year back in 2016 and 17. And this is called The Columns of the Giants. It's an immersive virtual field experience. And so what I tried to do was meld the technologies of the best of both worlds with high resolution photospheres. So imagine Street View in Google Maps, but on steroids, and meld that also with three-dimensional photogrammatic modeling. So what I've tried to do is give students a collaborative experience to study and discover a whole bunch of cool places within the Sierra Nevada to try to develop and tell the story of how this particular area came to be. So if you hit the next slide, please. Thank you. So one of the things I really wanted to do with this is make sure it wasn't a multiple choice click through type of idea. So as I focused on the science and engineering practices here, the students are originally dropped off in a photosphere like you're seeing rotating in the middle right there. And they're basically allowed to explore and create field sketches of things that they find interesting and intriguing. After that step, they are then guided down into another set of photospheres that are identical. So there's 6 different stops that they get to explore, but they get to the second set that has kind of instructor clues. So if you imagine yourself, if you were on a field trip as an instructor trying to guide students, what types of questions would you ask them, guiding questions to get them to focus their attention on certain things without telling them the answer. And so that's what you see in kind of the bottom middle box there with the pop-up. There's lots of questions that'll pop up that have students then consult a field guide that has every single piece of information that they'll need to answer all the questions. And it allows them to kind of banter back and forth and try to come up with some ideas that best fit their data. So students on this trip are asking questions and defining problems. They're analyzing and interpreting tons of data from these field guides and questions. They are engaging in argument from evidence because folks have different ways of interpreting what they're seeing. And so in their small groups, they are able to come up with some conclusions, which then leads to whole group discussions that I am now fixing so that it can be on like Jamboard or another interactive whiteboard through virtual digital learning here instead of in the classroom. And what they get to do there is then synthesize their data as a class and start ordering events of what they saw at the different sites to then create a timeline. And then from that timeline, they then create a final story of how the columns of the giants came to be here, which are a really kind of enigmatic rock formation in the Sierra Nevada. It's generally designed for like anywhere from middle school to high school, but I've used these photospheres in 2nd and 4th grade classes as well that have a little bit of a different approach. So there's tutorials and there's resource links down there on the pink highlight, or they'll be added to this webinar as well. And that's where you can find all the resources and materials you'll need to make this fun and exciting and successful. And the work is pretty amazing. So thank you.
Great, I love how you called out those SCPs there for us, Ryan, and I hope none of those beautiful places are burning as we speak here. Thanks for your presentation.
Mm-hmm.
Matt Krabel, you're up next. Matt, take it away.
I think that's you.
Matt, are you muted?
I am muted. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you. Okay, there you are.
My apologies.
No problem.
Seems like I wouldn't have done this before. My name is Matt Krabel. What you missed was me thanking all of you for inviting us to be a part of this. I am the Professional Learning Director at OpenSciEd. If you're not familiar with OpenSciEd, we build high quality instructional materials and professional learning. It's all free and publicly available. Has been evaluated by, was Achieve, and now is Next Gen Science's Science Peer Review Panel, and highly rated at each unit at a time. We're committed to getting our units out and making them free and publicly available, and every unit has been highly rated. We have over 15,000 registered users on the website. We work with more than 265 field teachers to develop our work in 10 partner states, and a lot more teachers and students have been involved in actually using the materials. And we're super excited about that. And we have now 7 quality units that have been released. We are continuing on our timeline to have the full program, full middle school program, to be done by the beginning of 2022. So we're on that pathway. If you could hit the next slide. And we have, so this is the link there directly to our free and publicly available materials. So if you go to that link, you'll just see, you will have to set up an account. It's a free account, and we don't use your information for anything other than making sure that our funders know that we have people that are interested in our work. And we also use that to send out updates to folks. Put all those links in the chat so people can find them. The professional learning materials that support use of the materials are there. Just a little bit of a side thing to this space, but I know a lot of folks that are space science teachers also teach other content areas. We are also developing and releasing in September, so soon, units that are focused on COVID-19 and health equity that both look at the disease itself and also the way that that disease is manifest in our population. And then more specific to this space, we have a Staying Grounded When Teaching Remote series that pulls together resources. We co-constructed these with our field test teachers and field test professional learning providers to come up with all sorts of different ways that you can actually make sure that you're keeping the focus on what is really important in science learning, even though if you're in a remote or hybrid learning situation. And then additionally, since we partner with 2 states or 10 states, 2 of those states went together and decided we're going to make remote learning adaptations of all of these units. And so because they're OER, they can totally do that and grab them and use them. And so we have, we're starting to crank out remote learning adaptations of all of our units, and those are posted at that link there. So that's the quick version, and I'm going to yield the rest of my time to the next person. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Matt. Appreciate that. Jen Wenner, you're up next to talk about Teach the Earth. Jen.
Thanks. Thank you for inviting me. I'm Jen Wenner. I am the chair of NAGT's Teach the Earth website committee. I'm also first vice president of NAGT at the moment. And I'm going to tell you about Teach the Earth, which is the portal to earth science related activities and projects that are housed at what many people know as CERC. The activities tend to be dominated by items focused on undergraduate level, but there are also many K-12 type activities. And so from the portal, which you see a screenshot of here, you can see that there's K-12 is featured in Browse Key Resources. There's also a search box where you can search for activities that can be on any topic. And then below there's Explore Themes. And Aida, if you can just click once and it should bring up, yeah, there we go. The themes are based in a variety of things like course topics and so on. But there are several themes that could be of interest to this group as well. There's K-12, and then there's also a specific NGSS, which I've shown here with the pop-up that you'll see. And you can find resources that are tagged with NGSS activities. So can you click the next slide, please? I'm just going to focus on a couple of topics or projects within Teach the Earth. Click one more time. Yeah, there we go. Clean is one of the projects that has next generation science standards tagged in it, and those you can browse or search. And this is focused on climate literacy and energy. So CLEAN stands for Climate Literacy Energy Awareness Network. 2 other projects that are tagged with NGSS are, click one more time, 2 more times maybe. GETSI, which is the geodesy tools for societal issues, and Integrate, which Ann Egger is going to talk about in a couple more slides. These 2 are projects that are focused on societal issues, and they are also tagged, and you can see in the top one with the earthquake, the NGSS logo is there. If you click on that and click one more time, Aida. that will bring up all of the alignments of the NGSS within that activity. So there are many activities in GETSI that have these, and you can see how they're aligned with those NGSS items. There are also many other high quality earth science education resources throughout Teach the Earth. And so we hope that Teach the Earth is the place where you would go to find anything geoscience education related. And I will yield my time, and I will put the link to Teach the Earth in the chat. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jen. Wendy, you are up. Wendy, take it away.
Hi, thank you. Yes, my name is Wendy Abshire. I'm a meteorologist, an educator, and the director of the American Meteorological Society's education program. And we do offer opportunities both in remote and hybrid format, but we're focusing on offering teacher professional development, not specifically resources like some of the other presenters today. So our program exists to foster literacy in Earth system science, with a real emphasis on the use of real-time data, especially our partners like NOAA and NASA and their data sets. And we try to bring that to educators through participation in our courses. We offer teachers full semester-long courses in weather, ocean, and climate science called Data Stream. This fall semester, as crazy as it is in COVID life, it is also the 50th consecutive semester of the Data Stream program, which is a pretty amazing achievement set up by my forebears who started the programs. And we're pleased to continue to bring those to teachers and have teachers actually finding time to take these, even this crazy semester. So kudos to teachers everywhere for lots of reasons. We also offer two competitive summer courses in atmospheric and oceanic science. Those are called Project Atmosphere and Project Ocean. Teachers are selected nationwide on a competitive basis to participate in a hybrid 6-week summer course experience. And the completion of any two of these 5 opportunities allows an educator to apply to become a certified AMS teacher, which is a new program of the Society launched in 2020 in association with the centennial of the Society. Go ahead, next slide. In addition to offering K-12 educators PD opportunities, we leverage the curriculum that we build ourselves and offer as the foundation of those teacher courses, and create curriculum packages for undergraduate faculty to offer, especially in a non-science major environment, to an undergraduate who may be taking their one and only earth science course. That is our sweet spot target audience for these curriculum in the undergraduate level. We have offered, these courses have been offered at 900 different institutional licenses, half of those from minority serving institutions, which is part of our goal is making sure that earth science and STEM, the earth as a gateway to STEM, are occurring in undergraduate environments for these non-science majors. All the materials are actually e-publications, so that we don't offer print materials. You can buy a print on demand, but that's not how the products are designed. They're designed to be taken online with hyperlinks and animations and all the great things that we can take advantage of in the web. The weather studies is being updated right now in the 7th edition of the book. Ocean studies was just updated 2 years ago. And next up, we'll be updating the climate curriculum. So it's a continuous cycle for us. And we're all getting older, and our program is too. So we're celebrating our 30th anniversary this fall. And we are pleased to continue to be able to bring these resources in weather, ocean, and climate science to a K-13 environment. And would love to have you check out the URL there if you'd like to learn more about any of the things I've mentioned, or reach out to me directly. Thank you all.
Thank you, Wendy. Appreciate that. Missy, you are up next. You're on.
Good afternoon, everybody. Missy Holzer here, and today I'm wearing my Model Evidence Link project hat. I'm on the project team, and I'd like to share with you a little bit about this wonderful instructional scaffold. But before I get into the details of how this works, I want you to think about how you are a critical consumer of popular literature that you read or popular articles. And typically when we jump into these articles, if it's well written by a noted journalist, they'll usually have a couple different models that they're presenting. And on top of that, they'll probably have some really good evidence supporting each one. And what that leaves us to do is decide which one of these models ends up being the most plausible to us as we're reading through these articles. How did you learn how to do that? I know over experience of time and experience that I kind of picked up on how to do that, but is there a way that we can actually help our learners do the same thing? And that enters in the scaffold of the model evidence link diagrams. The way this works is well, the project is middle school, high school based, as well as undergraduates. And I know some of my colleagues are actually using it with teacher professional in-service teacher training. So the way it works is that students are presented with two models, Model A, Model B, and they are tasked with just thinking about, they're actually presented with the model as well as the statement. And they're tasked with identifying what the plausibility is of each one of them. So they'll rank it. They'll rank it on a 1 or up to 10. And this is only based upon the information that they're provided. And I'll give you the example of climate change. And so we have two different models that we're presenting students. One, that climate change has a human impact, and another one is that it's driven by solar energy changes. And so again, the students are just presented with those two. I want you to think about in your classrooms that sometimes in a textbook, they're just presented with these facts with not enough evidence behind there. So enter in this dichotomy. How are we going to get them to think which is the best? So we present them with 4 lines of evidence, and each one of these lines of evidence actually has evidence text associated with it and a very rich suite of figures. And you can see that the figures themselves are a lesson in themselves. And what a teacher would do is either they would use multiple ways of introducing these lines of evidence to students. One could be that they could use Jigsaw. Another one is that students read these lines of evidence for homework. Multiple ways that it can be done, and I would leave it up to a teacher to decide how to do that. Next, after that, now they've got a little bit of information. Okay, now I'm thinking a little bit critically about this Model A and Model B, and they're thinking about the plausibility and their rankings. Go to the next slide, please, Aida, thank you. They're presented with this diagram. In the upper left, you can see that's what we call the Mel Diagram. And in it, you can see the Model A, Model B, and they're all 4 lines of evidence with the evidence statements. And after reading the evidence text, they have a little bit of a better idea of what those evidence statements are presenting. And they're tasked with actually connecting each line of evidence to each model. And the way they connect it is that, does it support it? Does it strongly support it? Does it contradict it? Or does it have nothing to do with it? And so they draw those 4 arrows, 2 for each, and they making these critical decisions. And now they're thinking, well, yeah, I think I have a better idea which one's more plausible. I would put them into student groups and have them discuss their links, their models, and they might end up even changing the lines in their connections. After that, we ask them to go ahead and check the models again and rank their plausibility again. Has it changed in those student conversations? What line of evidence was the one that kind of tipped them over? And so that's on the back of the sheet. What you're seeing in the right there is they go through the actual task of re-ranking. And what's very interesting for me is always looking at that change and where their thinking has actually changed, and it makes for a wonderful classroom discussion. We go through the explanation task. They're actually asked to identify line of evidence, how it connects with a model. And then finally, what I ask them is that last question there, was any one of your models ranked a 1 or a 10? And it's truly amazing that students realize that they need to have more evidence in order to rank a model at an extreme. Really fascinating discussion. So that's just one little bit of it gives you a little bit of an idea on how it actually works in a classroom. We have some pretty good charged topics here ready to go for all of you. The MELs, the model evidence link diagrams, the climate change, wetlands, origin of the moon, and fracking. And then we've branched the project into what are called Build-A-Mels, or what we're collectively call the BA-Mels. And we have topics such as freshwater, extreme weather, origin of the universe, and fossils. What's different about those is that the students are given 3 models and 8 lines of evidence, and they have student choice. They choose the models and they choose the lines of evidence to work with in order to come up with a plausibility ranking. You got a link there. If you'd like to learn a little bit more about it, go to the playlist and watch that webinar from the past from this project. Thanks a lot, everybody.
Thank you, Missy. Up next, Ann Egger and the Integrate project.
Hi, thanks. It's great to hear about all of these projects and be on this call with everyone on this webinar. And I'm glad that Jen already introduced Integrate. I was a co-PI on the Integrate project. I'm a professor at Central Washington University in science education and geology, and also the executive director of NAGT. So Integrate has been a big project that generated not only a lot of its own materials, but has spun off into lots of other projects that include SCETC, which Jen mentioned as well. So go ahead and click next. The Integrate materials were rigorously developed and tested, and I'll let you read the bullets there. They were not designed so that this proposal was written and the materials were developed prior to the establishment of the NGSS. They were not designed to align with the NGSS, but they were built on the same foundational document. So there is very strong alignment, and we have now since gone back and added that in. They were also built for the undergraduate level, but again, as others have mentioned, there's a lot of overlap between high school and introductory undergraduate, and we've already seen some adaptation of these materials for the high school and middle school settings. And that was a goal from the beginning, is that they should be adaptable and adoptable. So go ahead and click next. This is the homepage of the teaching materials, and I will put that link in the chat here when I finish. When you go to this page, you can click on that big Explore the Collection Now, and you'll see topics of lots of different modules. But there's also some different ways to explore these. So some of them, I will say, they were also not designed, or at least not all designed, to be in online or hybrid, although some were designed that way. However, the fact that all of the materials are available online and for free and easily downloadable means that they're quite easily adapted to an online or hybrid environment. Go ahead and click next. And you can see some examples, some instructor stories of how they've either used the materials in their online or hybrid classes, or how they've had to adapt them to fit that setting. And that does include mostly university settings, but there are some high school examples in there as well. Go ahead to the next. So this is, I wanted to show you specifically some of the examples of how you can explore these using the NGSS. And Jen really helped me out there by showing an example of a specific module and what it looks like when you get there. And we designed that so that people like you who are very familiar with the NGSS, you see that logo and immediately clue in on it, and people who aren't that familiar with it aren't even going to notice it, but you are, and so you're going to click on that and see those connections. But you can also start from the other end and search or browse through the materials by drilling down through those different tags. So this is just an example of where you would end up if you clicked through all of those the faceted search boxes on the right there to get to a performance expectation, a high school level performance expectation about constructing an explanation based on evidence for the availability of natural resources, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a couple examples of what you would get to through that process. Go ahead to the next. The other thing we did after aligning them or tagging all the materials with the 4 components of the NGSS is we worked with a group of teachers to develop what we called pathways to performance expectations. So this is putting together a set of materials from Integrate and elsewhere that allow you to make progress towards a particular larger performance expectation. When we look at those, we know that they're not something you do in one lesson or even a week, right? They're something that is built over a whole series of activities and engaging students in different ways. So you can see here an example of how we mapped out a pathway to a performance expectation about investigating Earth's climate and human impacts. And there are 4 of these that are complete on the website, and I will also put the link to that as well, but there's one on oceans, investigating the carbon cycle, and water resources. So those are the 4 that are available. And I will stop there. I'll put some links in the chat. I'm always happy to share more information about Integrate or help you find things on the site. And there's a lot there, so feel free to ask questions about it.
Thank you very much, Anne. Peg, you are up.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. So my day job is working as a curriculum writer and professional development provider of the Illinois Mathematics and Science Academy, which resides outside of Chicago. It's a residential school for grades 10 through 12, but there is a branch of it that works on professional development and curriculum for the whole state. And so I want to show you 2 different types of resources. One is for that serves more of the family in an informal way, and the other resource is formal NGSS resources that can be used by teachers or families. The first one here that's highlighted are snack boxes. When COVID started getting more prevalent throughout the United States in the spring, we decided that we needed to have some resources that would help families and teachers cope. And so we designed 30 snack boxes. We put them out on a weekly basis. With each snack box has 4 to 9 resources on them. You can see a sample there. That's a sample of a summer camp snack box. There are links to resources, activities. Some are in engineering, some would be physical, some would be earth science, but all of these things had links to trusted resources. We were looking for .govs, .edus, and places that parents and teachers would feel safe about going and using these activities. The STEM for the family was, sorry about the dog. The STEM for the family was for the whole family to do together. The K2 and 3, 5, 6, 8, 9, 12 were different snack boxes each. You can see some of the sample topics. We tried to find things that were fun. The summer camp boxes, we tried to find in themed. We have one for oceans. We had one for soils. This one happened to be on flight. So if you will go on to the next slide, please. That was for more informal audience consumption. This one is model lessons that were developed with a 4-year grant from the Illinois Board of Science of Education. And we developed these lessons from K to 5. We're very concerned about the level of science preparation for elementary. We developed lessons for all of the different disciplinary areas. We did do some heavy development in earth and space science. We also did some development in engineering and technology, helping teachers figure out ways to put this into the classroom. And so we have them all posted. They're all open education, open resources, and they're posted on Digital Commons. They're about 6 to 8 lessons in each grade level. And you can see a sample there of one of the little engineering, which shovel, in which the students are given 3 little wooden spoons of different shapes, and then they're asked to try them out with some snow or some sand if they don't have snow. And then they have to develop eventually their own shovel. So, you know, this is a way to bring in talking about weather, but also bringing in a little bit of an engineering challenge to it as well. So I will stop there. Everything's freely available, and we're trying out a lot of these model lessons right now remotely with pods of students all over in Iowa and Illinois, because they use very cheap, inexpensive materials that most people have in their kitchen. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Peg, appreciate that. Heather, please.
Okay, hi everyone. I'm Heather Goss. I'm the editor-in-chief of EOS, which you might know is the science news magazine published by AGU. I'm going to talk a little about EOS and how you might integrate our news articles into your lesson plans as engagement material. I will also preview a resource we're working on aimed specifically at this kind of use. So ES publishes two main types of articles: news written by professional journalists and research updates written by scientist authors. I'm just going to talk about the news stories here. Our news covers the breadth of Earth and space science and is intended for a broad audience of the science-interested public. They're all written at about a high school or undergraduate level, which is a tad higher than most popular science magazines, but still very accessible. And each article runs around 500 words or so. These articles discuss real geoscience research in connection with real-world stories. I put one of the examples that I like a lot here on the slide. Pollution spikes in Chile tied to soccer fans barbecuing is kind of the ideal engagement article. The subject is something totally relatable, being a sports fan, grilling out with your family. The article features an interview with a scientist who was looking at these pollution spikes and trying to figure out their source. Were they from wildfires? He tested the theory and that seemed to be no. Were they from traffic? No again. He ended up figuring it out by sending the dates of the spikes to a colleague in Chile who recognized it as the regional soccer schedule. So here we have a single story that can lead to lessons on the scientific method, an atmospheric science lab, on how everyday actions affect the world around us, on geography by having students locate Santiago on a map, and even on convergent science and how important it is to work with people who have varied backgrounds and perspectives. At EOS, we also have a twice monthly podcast called Third Pod from the Sun. It features lively interviews with scientists who offer some behind the scenes discussion of their research and stories from their fieldwork. And for those of you who teach ESL, we also translate about 2 stories a month into Spanish through a great relationship we have with the geoscientists at Planetando and GeoLatinas. Next slide, please. Okay, so how do you find what's useful for you? EOS.org is your standard news website, so of course you can head on over and use our search bar, or you can select from topics like ocean sciences or seismology. You can also sign up for one of our newsletters. EOS Buzz is our most popular one, which is curated to feature our most interesting stories that week. But the EOS e-alert might actually be more useful for you. It lists out everything we've published over the last week and sorts them into topics alphabetically, so you can skip straight down to geology or planetary sciences. You can sign up for either of those at bit.ly/EOS-newsletters. Okay, lastly, at EOS, we are actually working on making an educator targeted resource for all of you, mostly for high school and undergraduate teachers. This is a project we're doing in coordination with AGU's education section. I'm sure plenty of you know Eric Riggs, who is working with us to develop this resource. We held a workshop at the Earth Educators Rendezvous this summer with a great group of teachers, and now we're working on a pilot program with the results of that discussion. Soon, we hope to have an advanced search option that will enable you to find articles by subject matter, reading level, and other lesson or lab engagement uses. And we'll be introducing some elements right into the articles, like maps that give students geographic context, links to more resources, including, very likely, many of the resources introduced earlier today. We hope to pilot that soon and have it be fully live by next summer. And if you'd like to be notified when that's available, you can sign up at bit.ly/EOS-education here on the slide. And that is it. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much, Heather. And last but not least, Shelley Olds, please. Shelley.
Hi, everyone. This is Shelley Olds from UNAVCO. And thank you for inviting me to present today. I wanted to talk to you about the educational resources that we have at UNAVCO, and also to point to, we have a Facebook page, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. And if I have time, I'll actually come back to that and talk a little bit more. But what is UNAVCO? UNAVCO is the geodetic facility operating on behalf of the National Science Foundation, and so that means all the resources that we develop are free of charge, and for the K-12 materials, they're aligned to NGSS. Go ahead to the next slide. That's where all the fun is. So we have many resources that we've developed over the last 15 years. Once the education group was put together, and we dive into plate tectonics and many other kinds of topics. We have a lot of educational resources that are modules and activities that you can do in the classroom. And since all the resources are online and they're also data oriented, students can work on them independently, working with teachers. So we have students look at plate tectonic motions using GPS data. So this is real authentic data. And they can compare that through different jigsaw activities to look at earthquakes and volcanoes and see how that they are related. We have them deep dive into California, Alaska, Western United States, around the world at divergent zones and convergent zones. And for instance, like Iceland, we have data from there from some of our partners. And then we have modules where students are looking at the data, different lines of evidence for looking at like Cascadia and what's going on there with subduction zone, or at Yellowstone where you've got a caldera, and looking at different lines of evidence there to see what areas are of higher hazard. And then of course, so one way to look at that data and download the data is through the velocity viewer. And I have an image in the kind of middle section of that page that you can see all these vectors. Each one of these arrows is a vector, and the length of that vector shows you how quickly the Earth is moving. This is using a reference frame that is world-centric, and you can learn more about what that means by going to the velocity viewer. And then we also have a whole suite of animations and career spotlights available on YouTube. And some of the topics that students can explore are like, using GPS to measure droughts, and how you can look at how glaciers are changing over time, as well as exploring more about the plate tectonics. And then last but not least, hands-on demonstrations. And so in the top right corner, you can see students are using GAC to measure and explore glacial glacial motion. And as you take that, the glacial content off, how the ground rebounds. Could we quickly go back to the first slide, the previous slide? So now it makes sense that you actually can go to Instagram, and we have a lot of cool pictures there that posted from our field team, and as they're going around the world. And join us on Twitter and YouTube. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Shelley. That was wonderful. Thanks for wrapping up our group of presenters today. I know that the chat's been kind of over here on my right side. I haven't been looking specifically at what's been going on there, but I know it's been a busy place. Missy, do you want to fill us in on what's been going on in the chat?
Sure thing. There's just a few questions, and we'll go up to the front end of the webinar. The first one, well, first a general question I think everybody would like to know: will the slides be available with the quick clickable links? Because there are just so many good resources.
Yes, absolutely. The slides will be up on the webpage. You should get a note in your inbox from Mitchell in a day or so with access to those slides. Yep, they'll be there.
Terrific. And Jessica has a question. Can students sign in to use these lessons, and does it keep track of students' scores?
Yeah, so I did acknowledge that question separately, but yes, all of the Infiniscope products you can enroll your students in. You can track their progress through the learning experiences. You can also integrate it into your LMS and track progress, pseudo-track progress through the LMS. If you'd like to talk more about that, I'm happy to talk with you offline about all the different ways that you can enroll your students and track their progress.
Great, thank you, Jessica.
Next up is Ryan. The question, have you heard from other teachers who have used the resource?
Yes, there's been a few local universities that have used it, and it's worked okay, but for the most part, it's been all of myself in my classes and with all of my students. It's worked really great. And I think there's a big need to expand these so you can bring place-based instruction to lots of regions in the United States. And I think this would be a good vehicle to do it.
Terrific, thank you. For Matt, a question for you. How do you find people to do the development? I'm suspecting that that's the OpenSciEd development of the modules, et cetera.
Yeah, so we have partners with a development consortium. So with our middle school development, that included the team at Northwestern, so the team that folks may be familiar with that developed Next Gen Storylines, as well as BSCS, and then the field test group. We worked with the 10 partner states, and they connected us with teachers and districts to do that work. And we're getting ready to launch high school in development in January. So we'll be looking to expand that group as well.
Perfect, thanks so much. Wendy, question for you. For the competitive program that you spoke of, what are you looking for in a teacher to make a good candidate?
Oh, that's a great question. We ask a variety of questions, including your own background experience to date in weather, ocean, or climate science, what you hope to accomplish at your own school, what impact it's going to have. We want to see support from your direct supervisor, usually your principal or another leader at your school, showing that they plan to support you in implementing your new knowledge. Trying to think, there's a lot of aspects of the application. They're very competitive to get into. Sometimes people try 3 and 4 times before they're selected, but everyone says that they're really happy when they finally make it in. Trying to think, we do look for teachers that are potentially reaching those underrepresented in STEM as a consideration. And I guess one thing I could add is that just today I was working on revising our application process because through the Black Lives Matter movement, we've become aware of the reality of privilege accumulating in resumes over time. And we wanted to relook at how we were scoring our rubric for participation and realized that there were questions we had that definitely reflected that. And so we've turned a few questions around. Instead of saying, what have you already done? We've turned them around to be more like, what haven't you had the opportunity to do, and what impact would it had if you had that opportunity?
Great, absolutely great. I have a question. And so the question for me is, how do you select the models? And so these pre-designed MELs, the scientists have actually reviewed the models that we've chosen. So for fracking, there's 2 models that are presented, and we as educators, on the team, we came up with the 2 models, but then everything has been passed over to scientists to review them, as well as the lines of evidence. So the materials have been vetted over and over and over again, and worthy of everybody's eyes. Okay. For Anne, a question for Integrate. Do any of the people who have adapted the materials made them available to you to post? Are they available to others who might want to use the adapted materials?
That's a great question. So they can do a couple of different things, and it sort of depends on their own interest level. They can, there's a way on any activity in Teach the Earth, which includes Integrate and Getsy, as Jen already pointed out. There's a link at the top that allows you to add your modification or addition to that. So if someone has done that, it shows up on that page, and Jen will correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's how it works. It shows up at the bottom of that page. There's also, you can join the conversation for different materials, and that's somewhere where people can post to a discussion group about any changes they've made. We have talked about how to update the materials and make those adaptations more widely available. But right now we're relying on individuals who do it to self-motivate to upload and add those materials, but they can.
Terrific, thank you. Heather, we have a question for you. Are there examples from the EER workshop that teachers created showing how they'll use the articles in their classrooms?
Oh, sure. Well, there are lots of examples, and we do actually plan to use those when we start kind of annotating some of these articles to hopefully offer suggestions that we've gleaned from all of you as to how teachers will use them in the classroom. For the Chile example, some folks talked about looking for examples in your own city that might give off pollution spikes and kind of testing out those theories as a way to, kind of learn the scientific method, but actually learn some atmospheric science at the same time. That's the one off the top of my head. We hope to have a lot more of that when we launch the resource, so I'm probably shouldn't go into too much detail at the moment.
You know, I think I'm going to piggyback with the Mel project with that. We have a transfer task that has students look at articles after they've done a number of those MELs or BOMELs. And the task is for students to actually go through those articles and find the evidence that the scientists are posing for these different models that they're presenting in the articles. So I would see that using the articles for EOS would be a perfect transfer task for the Mel project. Okay, and then we have a discussion question up here. Does anyone have any ideas about how all these wonderful resources can be coordinated with each other so a teacher can see the potential of linking them? I'll try that one more time. Does anyone have any ideas about how all these wonderful resources can be coordinated with each other so a teacher can see the potential of linking them?
I think there's a PhD dissertation in that task.
There's a PhD and possibly a very large grant proposal to come in for that too. I will say it's something we've discussed at NAGT is, as Jen mentioned, Teach the Earth is the portal to all of these geoscience related things that are already hosted at CERC. But we have talked many times about how we might be able to catalog, point to external sites, and you can do that. You can submit your site or activities to Teach the Earth as a site, but it's not the same. It's not quite the same thing as having everything in one place, one virtual place, where you can easily see the connections.
But there are some things in the works, I think, behind the scenes at CERC that there is, we just found out yesterday that there's going to be some funding recommended to be able to do that kind of thing. And so that is going to be in the works over the next several years, I think, to try to help link all these things together and find ways to make sure that at CERC, things that we saw here are highlighted and linked, and we can link, you can link to CERC and Teach the Earth and those kinds of things. So I think it's being thought about. I'm not sure we know the answer to it yet, but it's being thought about quite a lot actually over the next couple of years.
Thank you very much. I think that's it for the questions.
Excellent. Thank you so much for fielding all those questions, and thanks for putting the questions out there. That was great discussion. We'd encourage everyone to reach out to the presenters today and continue that conversation. Real quickly, a couple of things here. If you would like to get a certificate of webinar participation, the only way to get that is by completing the post-webinar survey. And even if you don't need the certificate, we'd love to have you complete that survey. So there is the link to it, and we'll be sending that out again as well. There we go. Upcoming webinar, as I mentioned before, October 15th will be part 2 of this webinar, where you'll hear from another 10 to 12 resources. So please join us for that one. Registration information will come out next week. And then I want to give a minute to each of the organizations that do work together to provide this webinar series to kind of toot their own horns here real quickly. So Anne, since you're here and you're ED, why don't you go ahead and talk about NAGT?
Yeah, the slide here is about the webinar series, which is just one little component of what we do at NAGT. We have a lot of professional development opportunities, but the webinar series has really grown, and we have a webinar every week, and you can follow any of those links to get access to those. Think about in the future, the Earth Educators Rendezvous that got mentioned a couple of times in different contexts. And next summer, you're going to be the first to know outside of our planning group that we have already decided to go online. So this is has some advantages for K-12 educators because it reduces the cost of attendance, at least because there's no travel. So stay tuned for more information about that.
Thank you very much, Anne. Missy, Nesta, please. You're muted.
Yep, got it. So Nesta is your flagship of the K-12 Earth and Space Science Educators Association, and I encourage you all to join. We have a wonderful journal, quarterly journal, a monthly e-news, and we're have a presence at NSTA. And when NSTA gets back in full swing, you'll see us at the regional as well as the national. We have a presence on social media. And so if you are on social media, feel free to find us and we'll welcome you into our open arms and get sharing with all kinds of resources in the K-12 Earth and Space Science realm. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Missy. Ed, AGI, please.
I think everybody here knows AGI as a federation of member societies. So I will just encourage all of you to visit our website, look at the education programs there. And if you see something that you're doing that we could help to highlight on our pages, we'd be very happy to do that. We are a federation of member societies. Our job is to promote our member societies and other partners who are not member societies, but also have good things to offer. So our Science Week is just one of our programs. There are many more there. So, and again, thank you all for being part of this webinar today. It was really, really worthwhile.
And if you'd like to reach out to any of the three of us with ideas for future webinars or programming, please feel free to drop any one of us a note. Thank you for sticking on here for an extra minute or two. I just want to say on behalf of all the presenters today, cheers and bravo to all the teachers that are on with us today or that might be listening to this on YouTube as a recording, because you guys are doing yeoman's work, and bravo for the work that you're doing to continue to move our students forward in their search for knowledge. Thanks very much for joining us today on this webinar. We look forward to seeing you again on the 15th of October for part 2. Have a great rest of your day, everybody.